Your child's baseline score is not at all indicative of whether they should be taking the SAT or the ACT. So if you want to find out which test is the right fit for your child, make sure to stick towards the end of this video because that's where we're going to cover the last and most important tip that really identifies which test is the better fit for your child. So let's start off with the number one difference between ACT and SAT, and that's going to be time and pacing. If you average out the time per question, SAT comes out to 1.59 minutes per question, while ACT comes out to 1.11 minutes per question. So you can see SAT has a little bit more time per question. This is not taking into account whether or not your child has a 504 plan and whether or not they're getting extra time. Now, the total time for the SAT is 2 hours and 14 minutes, while the total time for the ACT is 2 hours and 55 minutes. So ACT is a little bit longer of a test. When it comes to Desmos, the integrated graphing calculator, both tests now have Desmos. ACT did not have Desmos up until now, but effective December 2025, ACT does now also include Desmos. When it comes to math content, SAT goes up to Algebra 2, while ACT goes up to pre-algebra. The amount of pre-algebra questions per test does vary, but on the ACT, you usually see about maybe anywhere between 3 and 5 pre-calculus questions per test. Now, ACT covers a broader range of math. So what I mean by that is there's going to be a little bit more intensive math on the ACT. There's going to be some more specific formulas that your child might have not seen in a while. Definitely a lot more peculiar and particular math that you see on the ACT compared to the SAT. Now, SAT does have free response questions, while ACT does not. ACT is all multiple choice. Now, ACT does include the optional science section, while SAT is just math and then the English and reading. SAT is adaptive, meaning that your module 2 highly depends on how you do in your module 1. This can either benefit or hurt your child. And the reason is, if you do good on module 1, that's awesome. Then you're in the threshold of, I don't know, maybe 700 to 800 scores. So however you do on module 2 is really just going to depend on where you are in that 700 to 800 range. Whereas if you get a couple simple mistakes early on in module 1, that's really going to cap your score. And then you're in the, say, 500 to 600 threshold in module 2, and you can only get as high as a 600 even if you get 100% right on module 2. So it can either benefit or hurt your child in that sense. Now, ACT is a linear test. It doesn't change. Everybody gets the same ACT test. It's the same 45 questions for every single child, and it does not change based off of how you do. Now, one more thing to mention in this aspect is that questions are weighted differently. So when it comes to SAT, harder questions are worth more and easier questions are worth less. Whereas ACT, it's 100% linear. ACT does not care if you're getting a hard question right or an easy question right. ACT views it as all the same thing. They view it as simply a raw score out of the 45 questions. Now, again, this can either hurt or benefit your child. Really kind of depends on how they are as a test taker. If they are making simple mistakes along the way and they're the type of child that works a little bit too quick and makes silly errors, well, it's not going to matter that much on SAT because easier questions are worth less, whereas on ACT it could matter a little bit more because all questions are worth the same. Really kind of depends on how your child how your child takes tests and how they do on tests and how they test under pressure, things of that nature. Now, one really big thing is SAT has repeatable patterns. So what I mean by that is there's going to be certain topics, certain questions, certain methods, certain formulas that you see on every single SAT test. And I tell this to my students all the time. Every time we come across a question, I will stop and I'll tell my student, I'm like, hey, this is a question that you're going to see on every single test. So make sure you remember this concept, this wording, this vocabulary, whatever the case may be. Whereas ACT, the test is almost 100% unique. I want to say it's maybe 90 to 95% unique, to where every single test is so different that you need to be able to come up with these solutions and these formulas and these methods and the way you start these problems all on the spot. So ACT, you're taking a little bit more of this logical approach and leaving students with kind of the psychology needed in order to be able to start the problems. Whereas SAT, you're leaving the students with a little bit more of a checklist of saying, this is what you can expect to see on every single test. So all in all, these are the major differences between SAT and ACT. So when it comes down to which test is better for which child, overall, I do like to say that SAT is the winner. Now, the reason it's the winner is because there's more time per question. So students are not tested under so much pressure. And the math content goes up to Algebra 2. It has a lot of repeatable patterns. And also the entire test is shorter than the ACT. So that's really going to reduce that mental fatigue that a lot of students face when they take the test. For those reasons, I do like to say that SAT is the winner. ACT does have a few benefits. One benefit is that ACT does not have free response questions. And depending on your child, it could be a benefit that all questions are worth the same. Now, there are some students where ACT is the better fit, and I like to say that ACT is the better fit for logical students. Now, what I mean by logical students is that these are the types of students that are really left-brained, and they view patterns and they think in kind of a chronological sequence. So the students that think very logically and mathematically, the ACT might be a better fit for them, simply because the style of ACT questions are a lot more direct to the point instead of what I like to call kind of beating around the bush. SAT does tend to beat around the bush a little bit, give you longer questions, give you longer word problems that you have to break down. Although that might deter some students away, there are patterns to the SAT that you can use to break down those questions effectively, efficiently, and repeatably. I mean, it's the same types of breakdowns that you do on every single test. Now, I've come across some very, very intelligent students before where they simply cannot grasp that style of breaking down questions on the SAT, and ACT deemed to be the better fit. Now, those types of students that I'm talking about where ACT truly, truly is the better fit, I want to say that it's only maybe about 5 to 10% of students. The rest, 90 to 95% of students, I have seen significantly higher jumps on the SAT simply because of everything I mentioned. More time per question, less length for the overall test. You have those repeatable patterns and everything of that nature. So all in all, I do like the SAT over the ACT a lot more, but there's going to be that 1 in 10 students that I do recommend the ACT for. That's it. Hope this video helped. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and also check out our website. We do run SAT challenges. It's 5-seat classes, and we do offer the first class entirely free, where your child can join. Simply make sure we're a good fit.